You might remember my review of Jacob's Ladder, the original movie, and it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Now they made a remake of it, so I of course had to watch it. I had high expectations, but of course it turned out to be pretty much the worst movie I've ever seen. Admittedly, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. The worst movie I've ever seen is still The Room, but that's so bad it's good. So this movie is just bad. A perfect example of everything that's wrong with Hollywood nowadays. Of course, a lot of Hollywood remakes nowadays are pretty bad. I did have high hopes for this remake because the original was just so great, and of course the original is famous for its amazing plot twist. No, at the time it was amazing. Nowadays it's just kind of like Sixth Sense, Everyone knows the plot twist already. So I thought, well, if they're making a remake of it, they certainly gonna have a new exciting plot twist. Well, at least that's gonna be new. At least that's gonna be innovative. Of course, it turns out they have the exact same plot twist as the original. And unlike in the original, you already see it coming from miles away. It's actually already hinted at in the very first scene. And since almost everyone knows the original, there is no twist there anymore at all. Actually, even if you haven't seen the original, there still isn't any twist there for you. The only twist, at least for me, the only twist was that there is actually even less of a twist than the original. So instead of adding any new twist, they actually took away from the twist because, one of the aspects of the twist in the original was basically that whole aspect with him being in hell, or is he? That was the charm of the original, that you never knew what was actually real and what was symbolical and what was metaphysical and what was physical. It kept you guessing the whole time, and there was a lot of suspense there. And all of those aspects are completely gone because being a modern Hollywood remake, they of course had to remove all those religious references, because obviously, that would offend people, because, obviously people who go watch a movie called Jacob's Ladder based on a movie that dealt almost entirely with hell and salvation, if those people are exposed to any religious references, that would deeply offend them. You can't do that. For the same reason, you of course can't have a Jewish guy as the protagonist. Obviously offend people who are not Jewish. Of course, need a black guy to play the role of the Jewish protagonist. Still left all the Jewish names, so I don't know. That doesn't actually make any sense, but. Hey, at least they removed most of the references to the Bible. And since, to the Old Testament, of course. And since, or to the Torah, to be more precise. And since now the protagonist isn't Jewish anymore anyway, even though he still has a Jewish name for some reason, those references wouldn't make sense anyway, and and they removed all those anyway, so yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. But of course it takes away a huge part of the story, because originally that was what the story was all about, and if you remove all of those religious aspects, because they're not politically correct or whatever, then, well, in this case you really aren't left with much of a movie, because that's what the movie was all about. Of course, I'm gonna be called or labeled as intolerant for complaining about a black protagonist. People are gonna say, or at least Democrats are gonna say, well, yeah, you're criticizing this just because you don't like black people. Yes. criticizing it because it's the most crappy movie ever made. No, you just don't like it because the protagonist is black. Yes, that's the reason. Yes, that's not the reason, and that's not why I'm criticizing the movie. But yes, that still was, and I stick to that. I stick to that I'm saying that was actually a bad casting choice. Hollywood puts a black protagonist in almost every movie and every remake, and actually I don't even have a problem with that. I'm totally fine with that. I kind of like that, actually. It's, most of them are pretty good actors, so I'm fine with that. And actually that guy is a good actor too, so that I don't mind that. I'm just saying that in this case, it's just not the right casting choice, because it's obviously a Jewish protagonist. In my opinion, I dislike the casting choice here, not because I'm racist, but actually, at least that is my view, I dislike it because I'm not racist. Let me explain to you what I mean. Because I dislike movies that do stuff like that. Because for me, I don't care about, I don't care about, people's skin color. I like everyone, but it does have to fit the role. You can't just have a black guy play the role of someone who's obviously supposed to be a Jewish guy. Well, you can, but then you kind of need to rewrite the role, or otherwise it's just, it's just not believable. In the same way that in the 30s and 40s in early Hollywood, I hate a lot of those early Hollywood movies because whenever they had the role, whenever they had roles for black people, and even as a protagonist, of course, nice that they have the character of a black character as the protagonist. That's nice. But of course what they did was they didn't have that black protagonist being played by a black actor. They had a white actor in blackface play the role of a black protagonist, because, well, obviously you can't have a black protagonist that is actually black. That was kind of the mentality back then, and that was very racist. And it's the same kind of mentality nowadays. They're like, everyone in Hollywood now is like, well, you can't have, a Jewish protagonist being played by an actual Jew with white skin. That would obviously offend people. Of course, the protagonist has to be black. Well, how is that not racist? How is that not the exact same kind of racism like back then, when they were like, no, of course we can't have Genghis Khan being played by a Mongol. We need to have him being played by a white guy like John Wayne. He actually did that. It was a horrible movie. Not because it was a bad movie in itself, and not because John Wayne is a bad actor. It's just that John Wayne as a Mongol is not very convincing. It's like a black guy as a Jew is not very convincing. That's actually that's not even that big of an issue, I just want to mention that because they do that intentionally so they can make crappy movies, and then when you complain about it, they say, well, you're racist, you just don't want a black protagonist. I actually don't even mind, don't like it because it's a crappy movie, and I'm only bringing this up because I know that as soon as I say that a movie with a black protagonist is a crappy movie, people are gonna claim that I don't like it because of it having a black protagonist. No, I don't like it because it's a crappy movie. It is a crappy movie. There is no twist anymore. They removed all of the religious references because apparently those are offensive now, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to have religion in your movie, but then don't remake a movie that is completely about religious concepts. That doesn't make any sense. then you're not left with much of a story, and you're not left with much of a story. There isn't basically anything left in this movie. You know, it's just it was so painful to watch. It's not a long movie, but it felt really long because they removed all the Jewish and religious references that were essential to the original. Then there really wasn't much of a story there anymore. If you don't want to have Jews in your movie, or if you don't want to have any religious references in your movie, that's fine, you know. But then don't remake a movie to which those elements are essential.